Hey, welcome to the podcast, Coach Dominique. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me, Ash. I appreciate it.
Very welcome. Um, just to kick things off, we'll jump back into our conversation. But who do you say you are as a way to introduce you to the audience?
Oh, absolutely. Man of many hats within the sports industry. When they ask me what my main title is, I always kind of include coach in the forefront because that was kind of my background into the industry. I was a coach for over 15 years, and I'm still kind of coaching and directing today. In the business world, but on the sports side within sports media.
Got you. How did you said both in sports and sports media, so you get to be on the court and like on the sideline as well?
Correct. So, I started, coaching girls high school basketball, as a matter of fact, for almost 10 years. Some people say I stayed 10 years too long, but, I loved I really did love what, I did. And,
Mhm.
just helping those kids to not only succeed in life and on the court, but, even after life.
Mhm.
So, my role was a little bit different than a lot of people's roles. I know everyone's career path within this industry is kind of different. I always tell people I took the long way around. I've been in the industry for over 20 years. I've done every job within the industry, that you can think of to, keep myself around the game, stay within the industry, even after finishing high school coaching. I coached on the college level for 3.5 years. I've, been in the NBA and the WNBA in the front office as a league scout. I've even owned, my own league, my own women's minor league for a couple of years. And now I'm on to the other spectrum on more of the business side within sports media with a company called Sports Talk 2319, which is the biggest independent basketball media conglomerate in the world today.
Wow, that's a lot. It's interesting. I guess with people saying at the start where it was like 10 years too long on the middle school level, like why would you say that was?
Well, the reason they said 10 years too long is because of my ability,
Mm,
as a coach, being on the high school level for so long. Maybe after my fourth year, I was approached by different college coaches to coach on the college level. I
mm,
said, hey, we love the way that you interact with your players. We think that that would translate well, definitely on the next level. And,
right.
I would turn down offer after offer. I wasn't satisfied, with the job that I was doing myself. I wanted to do more. I
Mm,
had a goal of, at least out of that 10 years, over the hundreds of players that I coached, I wanted to send at least, 70 kids to college on a full athletic scholarship where their parents didn't have to worry about paying for
mm,
it. Once that goal was completed for myself, I said, okay, it's time for that next level. And getting on that next level was a little rocky because when that opportunity was placed in front of me, I didn't take it head on.
yeah.
So funny story. My first crack at it was at Central Michigan University, which
Mm,
is a Division I school here in Michigan, in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula. I was working a camp for the current coach at that time. Her name was Elaine Kleinfeld. Elaine
mm,
was like, "Hey, you're doing such a fantastic job with my campers. When you come, working with them during the summertime, I've got an opening. Would you like to take it?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely."
mm,
So, we continue to talk. We iron some things out. Um, I get ready to pack everything in the car, get ready to go to Mount Pleasant, put everything in the car, get ready to have press conference and everything. And halfway there, I get a phone call, and she's like, "Hey, coach, I'm sorry, but I'm about to take a buyout." I was like,
ooh,
"Excuse me, what's a buyout? What's that?" I had no idea.
right.
Uh,
This
she
is
was
the
like,
first
"Well, yeah,
opportunity.
yeah." She was like, "I'm going to take my $1.7 million buyout for my contract. I'm no longer going to be the coach. and I'm moving with my family back to Indiana. And I said, well, where does that leave me? Like, yeah, quit a job on my way up there. Yeah, she's like, hey, you can talk to the athletic director and the next coach that comes on. If they want to keep you, they will. So I said, wow, okay, I'll look into that. So, I looked into it, and the lady that was coming in, she had her staff already pre-hand picked. So I
Mhm.
said, okay, I have to look for other avenues. So there was a buddy of mine. I went back home and kind of cried in my pillow for a minute because I was unsure of what was next.
Right.
So I jumped back on the high school level, for a minute. And, I coached at a little small high school here in Michigan in Bloomfield Hills. They're no longer even open. They were called Andover High School. They
Mhm.
merged with another high school, but their last 4 years of existence, I was the junior varsity girls head coach and the head varsity assistant coach, and
Mhm.
they were a school that academically those kids were great. Sports wise, not so much.
Yeah.
It was just something for them to do. My first year there as a junior varsity coach, I won the most games that had ever been won at that institution
Mhm.
of all the years that they were open. My first year we had over 18 wins, and that had never been done on that level. So then within their on the varsity level, we were able to achieve a district regional title, and that had never been done. So, I was
Wow.
like, hey, I got this thing over here down pat.
Yeah.
I need that challenge. I want that next level.
Mhm.
So, once again, I call a few friends of mine and I'm like, hey, I need to get back on that level. So I went to the University of Maryland for a little bit as the assistant video coordinator to kind of get my first shot. That's not a bench role.
Mhm.
So you're kind of in the background, you're cutting up film, you're doing all the little nooks and crannies for the program, the little odd stuff that the
Right.
coach just doesn't have time to do, nor the assistant coaches. But I got to be around a lot of cool people. So
Right. How
kind of homesick.
how'd you decide to go from coaching? Like,
Mm,
the first opportunity didn't work out, but then you went back to the high school level, and then you were like, "Okay, now I can transition back into college." What was the thought process behind, "Let me do if I can't get on the coaching squad, let me get into the film room and do that stuff that the coaches don't have time to do."
Well, I had a buddy of mine. He was by the name of Randy Brown. He
Mhm.
was a scout for the Atlanta Hawks. And
Gotcha.
me and him were talking on the phone one day, and he's like, "Hey, if you want to get in, the video room is where you want to go." He
Mm.
informed me earlier. He said, "Hey, it's grunt work. It's work that the coaches really don't want to do,
Mhm.
but it will keep you around the game until you find the spot that you want to be at."
Mm.
And I said, do I really want to, be behind the scenes like that? And, I'm used to being on the floor with the players and fully instructed and being involved in game planning
Right.
and things of that nature. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take that chance
Wow.
and see what happens. And, I always tell people the funny story. Hey, I was there the year after they won a state title. So, I mean, not a state title, but a NCAA title. So I missed out
Mhm.
on getting a ring by 1 year. So, I did my time there. Then, once again, I come back and, that position had kind of ended.
Mhm.
They were looking to go into another direction with that. And the head coach was like, hey, you're too good to be here
Mhm.
on this level at this position.
That's the film cutting position.
Yeah. She said, you're entirely too good. So, I come back home and, once again, I'm looking at myself like, okay, should I take some time off? Should I, look for another gig? And, I did exactly that. I was a little burned out by the process,
Mm.
of moving back and forth from being somewhere for so long and then,
Right.
having to go through that process of hiring and, resigning and going back. And
Mhm.
I said, you know what? I'm just going to be a regular person for do the 9 to 5 thing for a minute. I did it within the corporate world, absolutely hated it, couldn't stand it, couldn't stand, getting up every morning, doing something that I wasn't fulfilled with.
Hmm.
So once again, I reached out to my buddy Randy Brown to scout the Hawks, and he said, "Hey, I am no longer with the Hawks, but I'm doing something a little different." I
Mhm.
said, "I got a coaching and mentoring program. I want you to go through my program." And he said, "I
Mhm.
guarantee you'll get the spot that you want. You'll either be in the professional ranks or you'll be on the college ranks." He said, "I'm going to walk you through this process. Stick with me."
Wow.
And I said, "Okay, sure." So, the first couple of months, he put me under some different challenges, and, he gave me the ropes on, this is how you kind of want to go about getting a college job. This is kind of how you want to go about being, on the professional level or even overseas.
Mhm.
So I said, okay. So there was a school that's still in existence today called Sports Management Worldwide. It's in
Mhm.
Portland, Oregon. They train you to do different jobs within the sports industry. So if you want to be an agent, a sports agent,
Yeah.
they'll train you on how to be a sports agent. If you want to work in the video room, they'll train you on how to do that. If you want to be a general manager,
Mhm.
they'll give you the tools for that. If you want to be a scout, they'll give you the tools for that. So
Man,
I talked to some of the people at the school, and at first I was apprehensive. I'm like, "You guys are gonna help me do what in 8 weeks?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like I don't know. And the guy that runs it, he is a former, well, he's still an NFL agent to this day, a guy by the name of Leslie Lashbrook.
Mm.
Knows a ton of people within the industry. He has a great program over there. I still go back and speak to the students today, about my experience.
Mm.
So there was a guy that recruited me by the name of Marcus Williams. Me and Marcus are still great friends to this day. He was an NFL agent. He kind of ran their agent course,
Yeah.
so to speak. And they were like, "Hey, there's a course that we want to put you in since you've got video experience with this company called Synergy Sports Technology." I had no idea what that was. None at all. All I knew was, yeah, it was something that Mark Cuban was investing in. So I said, okay,
Yeah.
let me try it. Let me try it. So, I go in, I stand out at the top of the class, of course, because, I know basketball, been around the game now for
Mhm.
over 10 years and, been in the video room a little bit myself when, we had to cut up film. And I'm dating myself here with age, but, they use computers now, but back then we had to go what's called deck to deck. So,
Mm.
you would put two VHS recorders. You had two TVs.
Yeah.
One had a blank, cassette in it. The other one was the actual game film, and whatever you wanted, you would hit the record button, and then when you were ready to stop, you'd have to hit the pause button.
Yeah.
Then you had to check your other TV and the other VHS tape to make sure that everything recorded. So you're running back and forth like a chicken with his head cut off. Then when I saw this Synergy software, I was like, wow, this thing is incredible. You can cut down your time, recording and things of that nature. So, I go through the little course on how to use the software. And at the end of it, I was approached by a guy by the name of Andy. And he was like, "Hey, we would love for you to come on board officially
Mm.
with our company since you know basketball, like you really understand what we need." He said, "You made so many suggestions in class, you already know the software." He's like, "How about I go to my boss who goes to his boss, and we see what happens." His boss to his boss was actually a guy by the name of Niles Lechner, who created Internet Explorer that everyone loves and uses.
Wow.
So, Niles was the guy behind the actual building and development of this software. Mark Cuban was the one with the money. There was
Yeah.
also another guy by the name of Garrett Burke who came in on the basketball side. He was a scout for the Phoenix Suns.
Mhm.
Niles and Garrett were friends. They kind of put the idea together of what this would be.
Mhm.
Mark Cuban was the first one to invest in it for his program and his team, saying, hey, if you guys can take this technology and break everything down where all my scouts have to do is push a few buttons
Mhm.
and they got what they want instead of the old VHS thing. He said, hey, he's a tech guy. He's like, I'm all in.
Right.
So the next thing I know, I'm being flown to New York to meet with Mark Cuban himself, to meet with David Stern, rest in peace, himself, Niels, and they kind of broke down to me what they were trying to do.
Mhm.
This special program that would be for the league only, and how I would work in the league offices as a league scout, basically scouting all men's division 1, 2, and 3 NAIA for college as well as high school and European games. And I would make up scouting reports because I understood basketball,
Yeah.
and those reports would go to the different general managers of all 30 NBA teams. And they have their own in-house scouts, but
Right.
they were
That's
able to pull our reports at any time
yeah.
to look at it and decipher as well.
That's no joke for work. I mean, I just want to pause there for a minute. You said making scouting reports for D1, 2, 3, NAIA, and the other leagues for
Yeah,
the NBA
for
teams for them to
European
know like
overseas.
this is the talent that we've got.
Yeah,
That's a lot of data to process.
exactly. Yeah, so that's over 1,000 teams around the world. That's
Yeah.
over 2,000 players really.
Wow.
So my days consisted of getting up at really 6 in the morning, being
Mhm.
stuck to the computer until maybe 1 or 2 a.m. the next day,
Ooh,
breaking down film, and I did that for over 5 years,
yeah. Man,
and
I I think
mhm,
just to your point, like that's the you're really talking about the guts and like the work that a lot of people don't see, but like the jobs
mhm,
that's like it's readily available, the access that you have, but like you also have to be willing to do that job, go through the training class, go through all of that learning and just being able to be like, hey,
mhm,
I think I can be good at this and I'm willing to do it. I don't need to be in the lights, although it may be nice, but like I'm doing more work that people might not see, but it's like, hey, this is a new thing and I'm okay. Well, I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm willing to try it out. And like going from middle school girls basketball to now you're having these conversations with the major players in the NBA and
mhm.
later down the road going back to the WNBA and just being able to make all those pivots. I think too many times it might get lost on people if they just see like the
Mhm.
superstar, but it's like there's not this nobody really knows the superstar if it's not clear what they do, who they are. Like the scouting report, it's like you
Mhm.
don't have like the bets, the drafting, the this, the that, the other. It's like none of that would be a thing without the person that's able to like go through the numbers. So it's like I'm just happy we're having this conversation because it really puts a spotlight on the people that at times can get forgotten about or people might not be aware like, oh, that's a thing. There's a college that trains you to have these position and it's not just like, oh, you're lucky. It's like, well, it helps to have good relations, but it's also like it's nice to know like there's a process and there are resources there. You just need to know how to look or who to go to.
Yep, absolutely. And then we went from me, just breaking down film home to hey, we would love for you to go in the arena and
Mhm.
do it live. So that way a lot of people don't know there's, somebody that's in the arena that's breaking down a game, and during halftime of a game,
Mhm.
the players are going back into the locker room. They're looking at what just happened out on the floor.
Mhm.
That software allows them to kind of look at, hey, this is why I was struggling in the first half. I can
Mm,
make some adjustments because I see it on film. And, I would go, I'm living in Michigan at the time, and, I'd go to Pistons games, and, I
mhm,
got to know, the staff and, players and things of that such, because I was in the arena, doing that work. And, their scouts and coaches and things would come my way and say, hey, we need that transferred over right away. We're about to go on halftime. This is where we're struggling. And, I kind of already knew where
mhm,
they were struggling because of my basketball mind. And, I would
mhm.
pass those things on to the coaching staff, immediately for them to, look at. So, I always tell people I survived the lockout.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, realize, once again, as you stated earlier, how many people there are behind the scenes when you talk about a pro franchise. There's a
Mhm.
lot more than what goes on the floor. There's a lot of people in the background, a lot of moving parts,
Right.
making things really move. And around the time of the lockout, this was like maybe 2013.
Mm,
Well, yeah, it's maybe like 2013. And when the lockout was over, the owners had lost a ton of money
mm,
because they were locked out, for so long. And within that, that made them look at everything. So they got to looking at the budget, and they're like, wait a minute, we're paying these scouts how much? And we
mm,
have scouts in-house. And
mm.
we've also outsourced scouts to our GMs really need this. And the GMs are
Yeah.
like, yeah, we need this. We need this data.
Right.
But at the same time, the company I was with, Synergy, was like, hey, we can't afford to keep all you guys.
Mm,
We've thrown, but they're cutting our contract back, so we can't afford to keep you guys. So I'm like, shoot, okay, I'll take a pay cut.
mhm.
I don't want to lose my job. I'll
Right.
take a pay cut. So, once again, here I was out of, basketball again, and I'm
Mm,
searching and scratching, like, okay, Jesus, what is next? I'm like, but I've worked on every level so far. I've been on the
yeah.
high school level, the college level, now on the professional level.
Mm,
So then I get a call from a buddy of mine. Still in the Michigan area. He was coaching at a local college, University of Michigan Dearborn. He's like, hey, I'm going to this situation for my first year. Why don't you come on board? I said, hey, absolutely. That lets me jump back on the college level and coach for a little bit. So, they were a smaller school. They had an interim athletic director. Things were always changing. So we did that for a few years, and here I was once again saying, okay, should I just go in the corporate world now? This time I have a family of my own.
mm,
It's no longer just me. I've got mouths to feed. I'm like, all right, what next? So I get a phone call from a great friend of mine,
mhm,
who's still one of my business partners to this day, by the name of Janelle Burks. Janelle played in the WNBA for almost 10 years.
mm,
She's a former champion with the Seattle Storm. So she played on that squad that had Cheryl Swoops and Sue Bird and Lauren Jackson, players like that. She was done playing, and she wasn't sure if she wanted to get into coaching, and she
mhm,
know, my pedigree. So she was like, hey, I kind of think I want to get into coaching, but I'm just not sure if that's what I want to do.
mhm,
So I said, hey, why don't we do something like this? So we're tossing ideas back and forth. And I'm like, how come the women don't have a professional minor league like the men?
mm,
I'm like, those girls get drafted.
mhm.
They need somewhere to play if they don't make the team, or, it's only so many teams. There's so many girls that still have talent. They shouldn't have to go overseas,
Right.
to make that money, to be seen. We can do something here.
Mm,
So she said, hey, Dom, that's a fantastic idea. Let's look into that. I'm all for it. So, we got to calling around and, calling some major people and then talking to some people. And they were like, hey, that's an excellent idea. Yeah. Don't they have that? So, when it came time to actually put the money down for an investment like this, and you're talking about an entire league,
Yeah.
They were like, yeah, they looked at the WNBA and was like, "No, they don't make that much money. The league doesn't get that much of a return.
Mm.
Should we really invest in this? I don't know if I'm gonna make my money back if I throw my money in." And we couldn't make any promises because it was a startup league.
Right.
So we put our heads together and was like, you know what? Forget about the investors. Let's do it ourselves. Let's put our own money in and
Mm.
show everybody, this thing can actually work.
Mm.
And we did exactly that for almost 3 years.
Mhm.
We put our own money in, and by year 3, we were both looking at each other like, looking at the budget like, I don't know if we can keep throwing money in. You got a family, I got a family. Yeah, this is starting to hurt my pockets a little bit.
Right.
We're losing. We're not making any money. We're losing money. But at the same time, those girls, the girls that were involved, they were able to get looks from the WNBA, mind you, and
Mm.
they were able to go into training camp. A few players were able to go, overseas and get some overseas contracts. So we were doing what we were supposed to, but the overall operations of the league,
Yeah.
that was a little bit much to keep carrying
Right.
without a major sponsor. And it's funny what I tried to do way back then.
Mhm.
You hear now, you hear all this stuff on social media because everyone has an opinion when it comes to social media, and they're like, "Hey, WNBA players need to be paid more. Hey, why don't they have a minor league?"
Right.
I'm sitting back and I'm like, "Hey, over here, like I tried to give you guys that.
Yeah.
No one wanted to listen or be bothered."
Yeah. It's funny how
And,
everyone's got an opinion about something, but then when it's time to put up the funds, it gets a little quiet.
mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. It got really quiet. So, we disbanded. Unfortunately, we were like, hey, we got families to take care of. She had other businesses, I had other businesses. I'm like, hey, it's time for us to kind of just, let that go, and maybe we'll come back to it at a later date.
Mm.
Maybe down the line, sometime in the next couple of years, we're still both, young in a sense. We're like, hey, maybe let's put that together again and see what happens. Kind of get the band back together, type of
Mhm.
thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
she's doing great now. Working for the Amazon Corporation. In their corporate offices. I've moved on, still in the basketball world.
Mhm.
Then that brings us to our next chapter. Uh, I got a call from a really good friend of mine by the name of Rashad Phillips, who ran one of the biggest training companies in the United States called Skills Unlimited.
Mm.
He had 3 locations. He's trained thousands of players that are in the pros now, and
Mhm.
those that are in college and things of that nature. So he was like, "Hey, I got an idea." He was like, "I know you're great at business development. Uh, I want to run something by you." So he gave me a call one day, and he was like, "Hey, I got this thing called Sports Talk. I'm gonna call it Sports Talk 2319." And most people don't understand 2319, there's a significance behind that number. That was the amount of career points that he had scored while he was at the University of Detroit Mercy, which is a mid-major school here in Michigan.
Mhm.
But it's a high D1, mid D1 school. He held the school's record for most points. That's since been broken, but that number held a great significance for him in his career. So he says, "Hey Dom, I want to put this thing together. I need you involved. What do you think? It's going to be a sports media company." He said, "I want to be the voice of the unheard athlete because I was that at one point."
Mm.
He said, "Me coming from a mid-major, I was a great talent. He was able to didn't get drafted into the NBA. Did play in the NBA's minor league, the D League, for a couple of years. Then he went overseas to go get his money. Had a great career over there, broke many records, won championships, and things of that such. Was able to come back home and run this training company. And then, now here we are in 2017. He's like, "Hey, I want to build a sports media company that's built on actually we talk about sports. We're not debating. We are opinionated things that you see down on TV
Mm.
where everybody's just giving their opinion and screaming at the camera. He
Right.
said, I want to be able to teach. I want to be able to, still kind of grow the game, but on this platform. So, we created exactly that. Here we are, 5 years in this thing running, and I don't see it stopping, anytime soon. As I stated earlier, we are the biggest independent media company in the United States. I honestly believe the world. I haven't looked at the numbers lately, but we were
Mm.
getting very close.
Wow.
But as far as basketball goes within the United States, when people talk about college basketball and analytics, talk about scouting, things of that nature, they always mention Sports Talk 2319,
Mm.
or they always mention his name. I'm the guy behind the scenes that's pulling a lot of strings, making a lot of things move. I had my time in the camera, I had my time in magazines and things of that such. Those that are entrenched in the industry know exactly who I am.
Mhm.
For family reasons, I want my kids to, grow up and, not have to deal with the, hey, your dad is such and such, your dad is such and such, and be, pestered by that. In the United States, we have this thing called celebrity, and,
Mhm.
that celebrity thing will kill you.
Yeah.
So, I stay below the radar, kind of for those reasons to, kind of protect my family away from some of those things. But, we're out and about like regular people.
Yeah.
I still get noticed and things of that such. I'll sign an autograph or two, from time to time when asked, or, take a picture. But, most people, like I said, if they really follow the industry and follow basketball, they know exactly, who I am. So,
Yeah.
that chapter that's, still running. And, we've done some interviews with some of the greatest sports professionals in history. There's an interview that we did with the former Detroit Piston, Isaiah Thomas.
Mm.
He's one of the league's greatest point guards. He kind of was able to tell his story like he's never been able to tell it before,
Mhm.
from beginning to end. That was one of the best sports documentaries that you'll ever see within the last 20 years, actually.
Yeah.
So we went from, we've got some more documentaries coming with some other great sports professionals here. We've got a full staff within, 5 years that are in different areas, that are within the industry. We got a guy by the name of Max Van Auken,
Mhm.
who has a wonderful sports podcast that's under our division. We've got a lady by the name of Justina Knight. She's the president
Yeah.
of our scouting division, and she's the first female to ever hold a title of that such. We kind of wanted to break a barrier there.
Mhm.
When you talk about scouting, a
Yeah.
lot of times, especially within the basketball industry, women are never mentioned. And, me coming from the women's game, me
Mhm.
being involved in the women's game for as long as I have been, appointing her as, president of scouting, was something that was needed within the industry, breaking another barrier. But I tell you, her scouting reports are something that they're beyond magnificent. They're beyond detailed. I tell every high school kid, hey, if you're looking to get on the college level,
Mhm.
you need to have one of these reports.
Mm.
She loves the game so much. Anyone that gives her a call, for a small fee, mind you,
Yeah.
she'll produce one of those reports because they're so detailed. But it gives the players identity, a chance to shine. And I say all high school kids should get a hoop fouls report.
Right.
But also within that, Rashad Phillips, a lot of people call him Yoda
Mhm.
because of his predictions. Um, going through the ranks of what we were doing, there was a little bitty guard by the name of Trey Young that plays
Mhm.
for the Atlanta Hawks. He's a big NBA superstar now.
Yeah.
When he was in college, everyone said, hey, this kid is entirely too small. Who is he
Mhm.
going to guard? He's not gonna score the way he's scoring in college and the NBA. It's just not gonna happen. There's no way he can make the league. Every single major sports personality from, I'll say it, ESPN.
Right,
Let's
right.
just put it out there.
I was going to ask, what's the relationship like with them?
It's hit or miss.
Gotcha.
It's hit or miss. For a few years they would mention us because, we were starting to gain on their following and their followers. But we've got some great people that are within our circle that are working over at ESPN, and some people that are working over at Fox Sports, and they do an admirable job with what they're doing, and they know exactly who we are and what we are, and we're not fully to disrupt what they're doing.
Right.
We're not the full-on competition, but we add to the game.
Right.
There's more than enough room for everybody.
Yeah. That part's important because a lot of times it's like we might get caught up in just doing the I gotta be the top dog. I just gotta get mine. But it's like, no, you can get yours and like add to the stew. And I guess when you're speaking about this, I've been watching the Pivot podcast recently and just seeing what they're doing, bringing in all types of athletes and people even outside of athletics. I'm like, that's pretty neat, being able to see someone that's to a certain stature in a different light, and you guys being able to do the scouting reports and like being able to go beyond that and do a documentary like from the start. It's always beautiful to see like someone's life over time and then them tell you their story, their experience over time, and like being able to discover that over a period of time. So it's very cool seeing that you came from women's basketball, but even to that fact, I was going to ask you, like, how did you get into coaching middle school girls basketball to begin with as a coach? Like, were you in the education system and then like your teacher and coaching at the same time, or like how did you get that first call?
Here's how it started. And a lot of people are like, you did what to get in? And I said, yeah, this is what I exactly did. So, I've always followed the game. I started coaching at the age of 18. And, at the time, I was the youngest varsity assistant in the state of Michigan in history. No one has ever started that young. There was a lady who I'm still great friends with to this day. I call her my other mother, a lady by the name of Alice McGriff. She took a chance on a kid who just loved the game. So, I had aspirations like everyone of, making it to the NBA, playing, having a long pro career. My niece told me otherwise. So, I'm going to college, and basketball season is coming up, and I go, and me and Alice, we had a great relationship when I was a student, and we just so happened to run into each other at the grocery store one day. She was like, "Hey, why don't you come by practice and watch my kids practice?" And I said, "Hey, I'm gonna do exactly that." So I go by practice, we sit and talk, and I'm like, I would really love to help out. She said, "Okay, if you really serious, come back tomorrow, get a paper and a pen, sit over in the corner, don't say a word, just take notes." And I did exactly that. Not 1 year, 2 years. The girls knew who I was. They were not allowed to speak to me. I was not allowed to speak to them. I was sitting over in the corner every single day. When they would go to away games, I would have to drive my own vehicle to make it to the game. Couldn't sit on the bus. Wasn't official yet. Home games, I had to sit way in the stands. No one knew who I was, but the parents did ask, "Hey, who is this guy? He shows up at every single game."
Right.
So
like, who's my man?
Exactly. Is he a super fan? Like, what is that? So she kind of had to break it down to the parents behind closed doors of, "Hey, young guy, I'm helping him out. He really wants to coach. But I told him, he's got to go through these rigors. So I'm like, okay. 2 years go by. Year 3.
Right.
She comes over to me one day in the middle of practice and she says, hey, such and such is struggling with their free throw shooting. Can you go assist for me? I've got some other things I have to take care of. That was
Mhm.
my test. So I go over, I assist this young lady. She couldn't hit a brick.
Mhm.
And like I showed her a different stance and a different way to shoot the basketball. She makes the first one. Completely, she was overjoyed. So was I.
Yeah.
Because she was always missing.
Yeah.
And within a couple of seconds, I was able to fix her shot. From that moment, as far as coaching, I was actually hooked to
Mm.
see, being able to change someone's entire mood and probably their life,
Yeah.
helping them accomplish something that they never thought they could do.
Mm. That's
And
amazing.
from, she went immediately. She told the head coach what was going on, that, hey, Dominique is helping fix my shot.
Mhm.
Why isn't he out here with us? And she looks at me and she stares at me what seemed like for maybe forever. Just looks me up and down, coach. She looks me up and down, and about a good 5 minutes, and she says, "You know what? I think I'm gonna make you an assistant coach.
Mm.
I think you're ready."
Yeah. This is after
And
2 years of sitting in the stands, taking
Mhm.
notes, just observing, like not saying anything, just you got that passion to make it somehow in basketball, but your knees are just like, "Nope, but here's an opportunity."
Exactly, and most people don't know. Hey, that was 2 years without a check.
Mm. On
I
your own
would find
time.
a way, work odd jobs, and
Yeah.
find a way to show up to practice every single day. Never missed a game in 2 years.
Yeah.
With up here in Michigan, it snows really bad, snowstorms and all.
Yep,
Never missed a
especially
game.
yep, because especially basketball season, that's wintertime.
Mhm. Yep. Through the ice, through the snow, I paid my dues,
Phew.
so to speak.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
funny story. she gets she gets let go.
The head coach.
Yep. She gets let go. The moment she says, I'm gonna make you an assistant, she gets
Mhm.
let go. So I'm like, wow, okay, now what happens? So the best player on the team at the time, her name was Courtney Ellis.
Mhm.
She had a great career at in college at Michigan State. Went to Seton Hall. She didn't play professionally, but she had a decent college career. She had one of the best high school careers you would ever see.
Mm.
She was going into her junior year at the time, and once she heard what happened, she gave me a phone call and she was like, Coach, we don't want you to leave. Alice isn't here anymore. We're so
Mhm.
familiar with you. Will you stay regardless of who comes on?
Mhm.
She says, I'm going to make sure, and I owe her to this day, and she knows this.
Yeah.
She is one of the, and I tell people all the time, hey, she's one of the reasons why I'm in this business.
Mm.
She places a call to the athletic director. Now, this is a junior in high school.
Right.
She starts to have this much pull, but she does because of her talent. She
Mm.
calls the athletic director. She's like, hey, I don't want him to go anywhere. He needs to stay. I don't
Mhm.
care who coaches next. He needs to stay. So they hire a guy by the name of Barry Berlin. Me and Barry, once again, we're still great friends to this day.
Mhm.
Barry gets the job. He says, hey, he gives me a call. He says, hey, I'm the new head coach. I've heard a lot about you. I want you to continue on. I
Mhm.
know you're young, but this is, we can continue this relationship if you want.
Yeah.
I said, hey, absolutely. Ended up being his head assistant for the next 7 years after that. Well, actually, nope, take that back. 4 years. Me and him worked
Yeah.
together for 4 years. Then,
So
high school
this
doesn't
is the
pay a
start
lot.
of you that's the start of your
Yep.
career, early 20s to your
Hmm.
late 20s or mid 20s.
Yep. That is the start. So he gets let go. There's another teacher that
Mhm.
wants to take the job. Her name is Charity Jones. players were like,
Nah.
we don't really care, but if you want it, or there's nothing that we could say. And by that time, Courtney was gone. So they're like, hey, Dom, if you stick around, we'll try to make this thing work. So, me and Charity have a conversation. And she's like, hey, I'm gonna bring in my own assistants. I don't know, if there's a place for you. Maybe 2 months into her tenure, she quits. So yeah. So once again,
what happens during that 2 years? Like, do you stay on during her tenure with the assistant coach? Or
no, not 2 years, 2 months.
2 months. Gotcha.
2 months, yeah. So she takes the job in the summertime. And school is about to start, and she's like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this. So once again, there they are looking for a coach. And everyone's like, why don't they give the job to you? You've been here for a while. And there was a JV coach that had also been there as long as I had. He was in Alice's tenure, a guy by the name of Amos Thompson, who's another reason why I am in this business. He was one of those people to take me under his wing as a young coach and said, let me show you how to actually do this. So once again, there was another, they hired another guy to come on. And he's like, don't know if I want to really add you to the staff, but you can stay around. The girls really like you. You seem like you want to be around. You can stay around.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm loyal to the program. Why not?
Right.
So I stay around, and I woke up one day, and I'm like, I got enough experience on this level. I've had other job offers. It's time for me to move up.
Yeah.
So that's how that kind of ascended. And, I moved up through the ranks, and here we are today. I always tell people, my gray hairs didn't come from coaching; it come from my kids, but I love it. But I come from the adage of each one teach one. So if you remember, in the 70s, the Black Panthers, the activist organization, they had a program in the Oakland area where they would feed the community, they would teach the community. They were all about the community. And they had a slogan called each one teach one. That means if someone in the program was taught something, you had to take that information and you had to pass that on.
Right.
So myself as a coach is something that I've always, aspired that all my players, and they know, I say, hey, each one teach one. If I teach you something, you teach that to the next person. So, I've been through the business to where, now I've got a actual coaching tree, people that have worked with me, that have worked under me, that have worked for me, they're coaching themselves on the high school level and, on the college level. And, I've gotten to the mentorship side of the business as well. I've got a program that's going to be launching probably in like another 3 or 4 months here called Lead Launch.
Tell me about it.
And absolutely. And what Lead Launch is, a lot of people want to be involved in the sports industry, but they just don't know how. It's a lot different from, you send your resume into human resources, you pray to God that you have the right keywords in your resume for somebody to pull your information, and, you go through the interview process and you get hired.
Yeah.
That's the corporate world. The sports world is totally different. There's a way that you have to navigate each position, each role. I've held things from being on the board, being an owner of a team, being a general manager of a team, being a coach of a team, all these different roles, even the back roles that are within the industry. People need to know and understand there's a process and how to go about getting those jobs. So that is what Lead Launch will be. It will be a place for those people that want to be in the sports industry, if you want to be a manager on a team, if
Mm,
you want to be a trainer, if you
yeah.
want to be a broadcaster, there's tons of roles. If you want to work in the sales department, if you want to work in the front office, doing analytics, you want to be a general manager, you want to be under player development, you want to be a salary cap specialist, whatever you want to be within the industry,
Mm,
Lead Launch will be able to walk you through that process. So I'm kind of pulling back and exposing, so to speak,
mhm,
the back end of what goes on within the sports industry, how those jobs get filled,
mhm.
what that person needs to do in order to obtain one of those roles.
Man, that's awesome. I like that I think is key, especially when you talk about things like NIL coming up and having things especially for people that don't make it to the league, so to speak, or people just having a better understanding of how they can still be involved in a sport that they love and not having that opportunity. For me, surprisingly, I never played basketball. So it's like my bandwidth for basketball is very limited. I wrestled in middle school and then that translated into high school and I was decent the last 2 years, like getting a chance to make it to the state tournament. But again, we had that like fluctuation of coaches. But the last 2 years we had a coach that actually cared and was like, no, I want to let these guys know that there's something beyond the sport. But while you're here doing the sport, like you're going to put in that work and you working with your team to put in the work to let people know like, hey, this is how you can navigate and there's more than this. It's like if you don't make it to the league or if you're not making it from this stage to the next stage, there's still room for you here. So instead of like just going to the rec center and hooping and being like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. It's like, well, maybe let's be honest, you can't, you're not. But there is there is something else that you can do so long as you're willing to put in the work and like learn, go through the process and actually stick with it and be like, okay, this might be a 6-month process, this might be a 2-year process, but like actually setting your mind to something and putting the action behind it. I think that's really key. And I really like that. And I know somebody will get something from this to be able to say, like, okay, like there's room for me here. Like I didn't know that was a thing. Like, okay, like tell me more.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, those that are playing, I've got several players that are under my wing now that, I counsel and, I advise those that are playing in college and, they
Hmm.
want to go and play on that next level. How do I become a professional basketball player?
Hmm.
I walk them through that step. And even those that are playing, say professional ball,
Right.
there's life after basketball. And a lot
Yep.
of those guys, they make their money, they get as fast as they get it, they spend it.
Yep.
And once the career of a professional athlete is 4 years
Hmm.
on average. Anyone that has a career beyond on 4 years, you're doing great.
Yep.
And a lot of those guys and girls, they go through, they get their money, the money is spent, and then they're like, all right, what do I do now? I'm 27, 28.
Hmm.
How do I navigate life now?
Yeah.
How do I sustain, what my brand is? Everyone sees me and, they want to be a part of me. But
Hmm.
once you stop playing, the ball doesn't bounce forever.
Right.
So uh, it's like, what do I do now? So, I even counsel, former athletes, that are
Mm.
going into business for themselves or, that are, trying to figure out life after their sport. We go through different things and,
Right.
I do it from the highest level on even down to the bottom level. I have tons of parents that, have a kid in high school
Hmm.
that, are going through that process of trying to get a college scholarship. There's ways to get your kid that scholarship, but there's a process to it.
Mhm.
The high school coach, unfortunately, nowadays, they don't, I don't know if they don't want to, but it's switched where in my day, I would take the time to call 3,000 coaches if I needed to within a month span to get my kid wherever they wanted to go.
Mm.
If it wasn't the level that they wanted or the school,
Yeah.
we would make sure some kind of way we would find the fit for them. But, I hear from a lot of parents nowadays of, with the NIL coming in and,
Mhm.
those different type of things, they just don't understand the process. No one will take the time to explain the process to them. So that's another thing that, Lead Launch kind of does. We walk the parent through that entire process of getting their kid a college scholarship, which, those things are worth a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
Is the value of, those scholarships. So, people have been through the Lead Launch program. I call it Lead Launch because we are launching leaders into
Mm.
the society.
I like that.
I'm giving people careers,
Right.
and different jobs at that thing, and, giving them that support that they need. Because a lot of times within this world, there are different things that people want to do, but they just don't know how to get
Right.
there. Everyone needs that mentorship.
Mhm.
So, like I said, I take them on from, high school age all the way up through college, all the way up through, professional, even those that are retired. I have a few retired players that, played at the highest level,
Mhm.
of the game. And, I'm working with them to, help their brand and, help them establish themselves to where, hey, you once played, you
Mhm.
were a hot name. That name could still be hot and, generate income for yourself and, your family. I tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
Um, I was in Las Vegas last year and I was talking to a former player. And he says, hey, you know what? I'm low on cash. He said, I do okay for myself. But he said, you know what? I heard about this thing with like NFTs. And, he was like, my agent was like, hey, why don't, you take your memorabilia and turn that into an NFT? He says, well, when I go in my garage, my
Mhm.
family, they've sold all my stuff. They've sold my jerseys, they've sold my trophies,
Ooh.
shorts, trading cards, all that stuff has been sold. My kids sold everything. So he says, hey, I'm trying to think, what else I could do,
Mhm.
for myself to keep the money flowing. And, we work together and, on some different things. And, now he's a broadcaster for a major team.
Yeah. It's nothing to sneeze at. It's like
Yeah.
I was gonna say your recall is amazing. Being able to just think back to different people's names that you worked with over so many years. And I've always been impressed by anyone that's in sports. I don't know if it's just like very specific. I couldn't remember uh one match or one game to the next, but like some people like yourself seem like you can just recall the exact play. I work with this person this year and they're here now and they did this and that, and like just being able to follow that. Is that something you've always had, just that recall? It is that something that's kind of helped you be the person in the background to be able to like navigate those different things?
Yeah, absolutely. That's just always kind of a special skill that I've always had. I could remember games that I played in myself, and I'm like, hey, the score was such and such, and we were down by so many points, and
Mhm.
the ball was passed to such and such, and it was stolen, and that's why we lost, and things of that nature. So I've always kind of had that ability and that gift to
Mm.
just have that great of a memory.
Right.
Now, if you asked me what I had for lunch the other day, I probably couldn't tell you.
Right. I, I guess
But
that
those things, they just stick.
right. I guess that's a great thing, because I guess to some, or maybe like maybe for myself, I might be intimidated, so to speak, at the start to be like, man, I don't know if I can operate at that level that Dominique's on. It's like he's here, and I'm like, I can barely remember what I had on unless I look in the mirror. But it's like, I think, like you said earlier, and even coming from where you were coming from, working with a group of students or kids at camp, like still
Mhm.
putting in the time, like you do your thing, but then you each one teach one, you're reaching back to say, hey, like here's something I can show you. Now I need you to do that for somebody else. Like that, like working to that level where it's like you're working one on one, but you're investing into someone. I think the veil kind of comes down, so to speak, to be like, oh well, this person's just a super genius, and like he's just special. Like it's like, well, yeah, he's special, but he's willing to work with you. Are you willing to work with yourself? Like, are you willing to allow yourself to like take in the information that's being offered? Like, are you going to
Mhm.
give up your time? Are you going to show up, or are you going to find an excuse to be like, eh, a car broke down or something? Like, legitimate things can happen, but it's like if you don't, if you're not honest with yourself about like, okay, this is something that I want and I'm going to do everything in my power to pursue it, and just be honest about, okay, I can be here even if it looks like I can't be here. I'm going to find a way to like get all the way there, because the thing that kind of rang through throughout the story, from you getting into basketball to going through that 2 years of rigorousness, is like you'd already built up a reputation about like, okay, this is something I'm interested in. And that coach, the first coach, was like, okay, you you want this? Okay, I need you to show up here. Just be over there. Don't say nothing. Don't don't talk about anything. Just be right there and take notes. And you're like, all right, yes, like that mindset. I think it's a powerful thing. Not everybody has it, not everybody needs it, but like for those that have it and those that are diligent in their work, I salute you for that.
I appreciate it. And yeah, it wasn't easy. I had my dark days where, I was like, is this really for me? Is
Mm,
this something that, I should continue on? Should I just go get a regular 9 to 5 job and show up at a call center every day and answer a phone and, just my regular day be the same every single day?
mm,
And, I never gave up on myself. I always tell people, bet on yourself because it's a huge world out
yeah,
there. And, with a little passion, hella faith, and a vision for what you want for your life, you can do anything you want. The
yeah,
mind is a powerful thing. It's just putting in the work. And that's something that I tell all my lead launch clients. You gotta put in the work. I can give you the guidance that you need
mhm,
to get through, so you don't have to go through a lot of the things that I had to go through. But as long as you put in the proper work, you can get exactly where you want to be. And to my next point, that is also a message that is being put into a book, not my own book, but for players that are within the basketball industry. My guy Rashad Phillips, he created a book called "The Evolution Will Be Televised," and within that, within basketball, we've always had the same 5 positions. You've had a point guard, a shooting guard, a small forward, a power forward, and a center, and it's been that way since the 1940s.
mm,
The game has evolved like everything else in life has evolved. If you look at what a cell phone was 20 years ago, and you look at what a cell phone is now, they're two different things. They don't even look the same.
right,
They're used entirely differently. 20 years ago, that cell phone was to only make a phone call.
mhm,
Now, that cell phone is a personal computer in your pocket.
yeah,
It has evolved. And things that even in life, things that don't evolve, they die eventually.
yep,
So he has tried to keep the game evolving. as the players are evolving.
Mhm.
So he wrote a book on the entire subject with the different positions that should be used in today's game. And I'm pretty sure companies like 2K Sports,
Mhm.
Visual Concepts, they're going to use these positions in video games. It's going to be so popular.
Yeah.
If you're a high school athletic director, there's something that you want to buy for your entire program because it's going to help that kid and their parents navigate through their high school years and identify themselves as a player. You
Right.
don't know where you're going unless you can identify who you are. And that's in any situation in life. And within this book, it's going to do exactly that. Same thing for that player that's in college
Mhm.
is being a pro right for me. That book is going to help them identify. And that identification is even more critical when you go to higher levels to identify what am I? Who
Right.
am I as a player?
Right.
That's going to really change the game as a whole. And he wrote a fantastic book that will probably be a New York Times bestseller.
Mhm.
I tell people all the time now, hey, pre-order that thing before it sells out. They can go to
Mhm.
sportstalk2319.com and pre-order that book for themselves, pre-order for your family if you got somebody that's uh, you know, playing basketball that's young, get it for them as a Christmas gift.
Mhm.
I'm telling you, it's going to change their life.
What's it called?
It's called The Evolution Will Be Televised.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's by Rashad Phillips.
Got it. And where can people get in touch with you and Mr. Phillips and just yourself and people from your team online and offline?
Oh, absolutely. Online, they can go to sportstalk2319.com. They can fill out the little contact us form,
Mhm.
or I'm available on all social media platforms under Coach Wilford. So that's Coach, and then WILFORD. You can find me on Twitter, the Instagram. I
Mhm.
recently my kids got me into the whole TikTok thing. I don't even know what that is, but I have it.
Yeah.
It's there, and people can contact me in that way. Lead launch officially,
Mhm.
will be launched on a big giant scale where, I'm working with a couple of professional teams now
Mhm.
um, as an advocate for, kind of their human resources department when they're ready to hire for a certain role. They're going to look to lead launch first to see,
Mhm.
hey, do you have anybody that's, wants to get it within that role? Are they trained already? Because if you think about it, if you got a kid that wants to be, a manager of a professional team, and most people don't understand
Mhm.
managers for pro teams, they make great money.
Yeah.
They make great money. Some even you would think, hey, that guy that's cleaning the jerseys and putting away the balls and dealing with the ball boys and managing that process, that's a grunt job. But hey, that person is making almost six figures.
Yeah.
So say if you got a kid that wants to do exactly that, they were a manager on their high school basketball team for 4 years. They never played, but they were managing on this high school team, and then all of a sudden they go from the high school team to the college, and now they're
Mhm.
a manager on the college team. That's
Yeah.
another 4 years of being a manager. That's 8 total years of experience.
Yeah.
So now that kid graduates from college with their degree, and they're like, I still want to be a manager. Well, hey, there's some professional franchise that could use you. There's some, general manager that's scratching their head. How do we fill this management role? And now you call up Lead Launch, and Lead Launch gives you that kid that's got 8 years of experience. They're walking right into the job, and they don't have to be trained. They already know what to do,
Mhm.
and it's just a great relationship. That person gets exactly what they want, the organization gets exactly what they want, everybody's happy. And
I
I've
love it.
seen another kid's career get fulfilled.
Mm. I love
So
it.
that'll be coming soon on a large scale. When I launch that, I probably send out a Twitter message. So, always follow me on Twitter.
Mhm.
But you're gonna see that thing everywhere. I'm
Yeah.
negotiating with ABC and NBC for commercial time. So you're gonna see it everywhere.
Yeah. It'll be it'll be out when this comes out. It'll be there live and direct. They're like, "Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So it came
Yep.
from okay. We see you."
Mhm. You
Well,
got the exclusive. I
yes,
gave you the
sir.
exclusive. I
I
hadn't told
appreciate
anybody
it. I appreciate it.
that.
One last question I have for you is from the first question I asked you at the start of the podcast. Are you still who you said you were?
No, I'm not. I've evolved. I've evolved from being that kid that was very unsure of themselves, was unsure of what they were going to do in life, to having a passion for something, turning that passion not only into a career, but also turning that thing into a business, which I never thought, never in a million years, but around the people that I've been around. And it's all about your environment. I tell people all the time, our great friend,
Mhm.
Eric Thomas,
Yeah.
who's got, Breathe University. I always tell people, hey, if you're unsure about your life and where you want to go, change your environment. It's the environment that you're in, because you can get stuck. I was
Mhm.
that kid that was stuck. Even though I've done that I've done
Mhm.
within my career, at one point I was that kid. I was very unsure of what life held for me.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
Et, and I'm pretty sure he don't remember this, but because he speaks to thousands of people, right? He didn't have to speak to me on this day. I'm a very transparent person.
Mhm.
My second marriage was failing,
Mhm.
and I was unsure of how to continue on after that. And I was unsure about life, period. And I reached out to Carl
Mhm.
Phillips,
Yeah.
one of his right hand men. Sent him a message on Facebook. Didn't know he was gonna read it. He read the message, and this was in the early days of when Breathe University had first started. He
Mhm.
replies back to me, "Hey, yeah, yep, he can take your message. He'll give you a phone call. At this time, it's gonna be early, 6 in the morning." He was on his way to the airport, which he's always on his way to the airport.
Mhm.
But so he takes my call. I think this was June 13th, 14th.
Mhm.
Takes my call 6 in the morning. We have a 35-minute conversation. Entirely changed my perspective on life. Opened up a lot of doors. He is another reason Lead Launch was created.
Mhm.
He's another reason I was able to go on and help Rashad Phillips and his entire crew make Sports Talk 2319 one of the biggest basketball conglomerates in the world. Was a 35-minute conversation
Yeah.
with this man that gave me clarity on life. So I say that because a lot of people, they don't have value,
Mhm.
in their life. They don't know what they value. So they're just aimlessly doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And you need clarity. And as you need clarity, you need to get around the right people. So whether it is Breathe University, or if you're a male, you need to be involved in a prayer line.
Yeah.
Sort of like how me and my buddy Asher here, I've been involved in the prayer line since let me see. Patrick Pete was the guy that brought me in. 2016. Yep, it
Yeah.
was 2016.
Wow.
And he was like, look, call this number. It's the number you need to call.
Mhm.
Pick up the phone one morning. He said, I don't care if it's 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, somebody's always on. You call that line.
Yeah.
And I did exactly that. And, I've been entrenched with those brothers for the last 6, 7 years. And that is another thing that entirely changed my life as a person, as a husband, as a father, those things that are super important in life. So, once again, if you are struggling with your environment, you're looking to better yourself. That's one of the things that you want to look up. I know that there's an Instagram page for that, right?
Yeah, yeah. There is this PWG Men, Prayer Warriors Global Men.
Yep. If you're out there, you're struggling in life, you're not sure how to get ahead, that's where you need to be. And it's free. I've always told our guy Brian Keith, I'm like, man, y'all membership fee.
Yeah,
This thing is too powerful.
yeah,
But no, we're on a mission of serving God. We're on a mission of serving other males, and it continues to be a free thing where lives are changed on a daily basis.
yeah.
I don't know too many organizations that could say that.
Yeah, it's definitely evolving. And just to echo what you said, I remember I joined the prayer line, I think at the end of 2016 or start of 2017, and kind of coming through Breve University and just trying to figure out how to really be in the presence of men and be around other men and really understand how to function in a healthy manner. Because it's like, yeah, when you get around, we talk sports a lot, and it's like
Mhm.
outside, like in sports and outside of sports, like when you're around other men, you're going to butt heads from time to time,
Yep.
but it's like learning how to deal with that opposition and not seeing other men as always as your enemy, but like learning how to deal with the inner me, like the internal person, whether it's the little boy that didn't get the affirmation, the love that he needed at a younger age, but learning how to really address the concerns. And it's interesting because it's like you go from being validated, but also you start looking internally and you start addressing the things that you need to do. Because just as much as
Mhm.
the line is a resource, you learn that you have to become resourceful yourself, and you can't just depend on it to be like the end all be all. It's like, yeah, once you hang up the phone, you still need to go live life, but now you have tools to be able to do that, or you might have to wrestle with something that you heard or something that was said and just be like, okay, like let me reach out to somebody one on one from the line and talk to them and just like have that dialogue, build that relationship, and just like celebrate the good, but also celebrate the hard times, the difficult times, but know that other men have gone through that. And there's like such a range. I think it's been around for 25 plus 30 years.
Yeah.
And like there's a 25-30 year gap of different men that are on there, people that are in their early 20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s. I think we had Pops on this last week, and I think he's in his 80s, maybe.
Yeah. Yep.
And just being able to kind of catch part of that conversation and hearing someone that's older or a grandpa at this stage in his life, and also being able to speak to men that have lost their fathers or that never knew their fathers, and them being able to express and learn how to speak to someone of that age and kind of let go of a lot of the things that they're holding. Because it's like you can't you can't punish someone necessarily for what they did, regardless of how terrible it is. It's like, of course, we have the court systems to take care of some of those things, but it's like when you have that like internal wound that just keeps, and you just keep thinking like, this person, they've got to get theirs, like somebody's got to get them, and somebody, and it's like you got to let God take care of that essentially. But it's like you got to take care of you. You got to let it go. Like otherwise it's like you if you keep spitting this venom, it's like you're willing to drink this poison hoping somebody else dies and passes out. It's like it's not going to work like that. It might quote unquote suck to think, oh, like they're going to get away with it. It's like no, nobody gets away with anything. But like at the end of the day, you don't get to decide who gets what. like you don't get to be that judge, so to speak. But yeah,
Mhm.
being part of the line has been awesome. Just yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, I really do hope that, your viewers and your listeners, they were able to take some of the gems that I tried to throw, in there within the interview, and, use that for their life. Once again, I'm reachable. I'm accessible. I'm not like some of these people that you meet out here that are linked with other things. People are linked with celebrities, and they're like, I just can't. That person they shun me, or I'll always shake a hand when I'm in
Yeah.
public. I'll take a phone call. I don't turn anybody away
Appreciate you.
because
Thank
we're
you.
all humans at the end of the day,
Yeah,
regardless of what your bank account says.
very true. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. I better get off of here before I you get me all choked up. But I appreciate you, Dominique.
Absolutely, bro. Anytime, man. Just reach out and let me know, and I'll be on.
Yes, sir.